Guys, we've got 3 hammers from Heated Hot Sauce. Thank you very much. So this is a 12-team super flex, half PPR. It's full PPR for the tight ends, 4-point per passing touchdown, start 10. Scott, we'll start with you. Can take down a solid Empire pot this season. The team is Kyler, Dak, Stafford. And then at running back, you have CMC, Bijan, Aaron Jones, Zach Moss, Chase Brown. And then at wide receiver, Lamb, JJ, Tyreek, Marv, DK, Adams, Ridley, and then Kelsey, Schultz, and Musgrave at tight end. What moves do I make now to try to secure the Empire, knowing owners will likely shun me in season down the stretch? Would you shop DK / other wide receivers for a running back like Pacheco, ETN, etc.? Okay, Scott. So this is a 12-team super flex, half PPR, full PPR for the tight ends. Start 10. Big Empire pot here. Stacked team.
Well, it's a start 10, 4-point per passing touchdown. Go across the board. You're okay at QB if you had to get by with those guys. Running backs, I saw the last part of the question. Do I shop a receiver for a running back? Why? I get it. It's an Empire. So for everybody listening, Empire pot basically means if you win, the league ends. And a lot of times he didn't say it specifically, except for at the end where he mentioned they might freeze him out. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people don't want the league to end. So they will not trade with the team that's about to win the championship or has the best chance to win. So being flexible going into the second half of the season, like we always say, like if this was no Empire, I'm looking at this running back room. Why do I need Aaron Jones? Hell, I don't even know if I need Christian McCaffrey. If I could sell him and get extra points, or I get extra picks, I could probably win without him. But in this case, he's probably going to be up against the wall to get assets when needed if things go wrong. So you're actually too deep on this team. But the things you probably would want to sell for, you're probably thinking, man, I don't really want a 26 first in an Empire league if I'm planning on winning the league, because what are you betting on? That you're going to end the league, right? So you're like, why would I want to sell stuff for something that I'm planning to destroy before it even gets here? So I'm okay doing that, just hedging my bets, but I'm selling from, does Devontae Adams or Calvin Ridley matter on this team? And if I can't sell those, does DK Metcalf matter on this team? Does Aaron Jones matter on this team? Does Matt Stafford matter on this team? Yes, there's excess. You don't need it. But I'm not trading DK Metcalf for a running back today when I already have these guys. So he's got to gamble. Like, how likely are you to be able to get something for a 25 first if you have an extra one, for a 26 first if you have an extra one? So that'd be my thoughts. Otherwise, I'm just holding tight. The team is good. Can you get an upgrade at quarterback? That'd be the only spot where I'm like, man, I really would want to get an upgrade, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, and then a 4-point, Kyler's nice, and I guess Dak runs a bit. Anyways, Shane, what do you think about this one, man? It's funny because the question was, should I trade DK and other wide receivers for running back? And Scott said, if anything, he's paring down on the existing running backs. What would you do with this squad, man? 12 by 10.
So I get the desire to want to upgrade, but where are you upgrading? You can't upgrade from CMC and Bijan. I don't know. I said his name like that. Bijan. Your wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, JJ, and Tyreek. Sure. Can I get someone like in a league like this, because it is an Empire? I might bet against Marvin Harrison and see what can he give me. You know what I mean? Like going all in. But even then, it's your wide receiver 4. So.
And what would you want? What are you trying to sub him in? No, I know. I kind of liked it though. You're like, if it's an Empire,
it's got it. So he's already got Lamb, JJ, and Tyreek. So literally just going down the list, like who's got Chase? Like I'll give you Marvin Harrison and something else for him. But the problem is when you're doing stuff like this, these dudes know it's an Empire league. These dudes are ladies and/or ladies. I'm assuming they're going to go no, because I don't want you to win this year and take all of our money. And then reset the league, I would think. But that's why if you're going to make a deal, it's going to have to be super aggressive like that.
I think the other thing is, would you trade, like you mentioned, DK for Devon Achane? I'd rather have Achane just for what he can do for my lineup. So that's an obvious one. I think the other thing is listen, Marvin Harrison is wide receiver 9 in redraft. You have Kyler Murray. So upgrading him to what doesn't really make sense. I mean, I get where Shane's coming from. Does he think Amon-Ra or Jamar Chase will outproduce Marvin Harrison this year? Maybe.
Yes.
But is it worth breaking up the Kyler? You're betting on Kyler already, right? So you're kind of betting on Marvin Harrison. So it makes sense to have them and not tear off. But I do agree. If you can literally get a guy like Achane and find a place to start him every week, sure, you can have Zach Moss and DK Metcalf for him. Like, no problem. Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf for Achane, sure.
Shane just made me laugh big time in the private chat. So these hammers that we speak of, you see below me, as he bounces. Can you handle the overlay for me while I'm talking here?
I think Shane realized he was maybe lagging a
was
little bit,
lagging.
so apologize.
Yeah.
Apologize to the group if that was the case. But yeah, let's roll.
Yeah, so no, buymeacoffee.com/trades-in-5 is where you could submit your questions and we will answer them on a live stream. So go on there, donate the hammers, or coffees, technically, we call them hammers. Look at Shane. Is he frozen? No. That would have been great, though. All right, hook us back up here on the overlay. We'll move on to the next one. Oh, and I should also say, too, when we're talking about start 9, start 10, we're talking about how many players you start in your lineup each week, not including kicker and defense. So the idea is start 8, start 9. Those are really shallow. You just want, hammers. Start 11, 12. That's when you're getting deeper, and players like, I don't know, Amari Cooper are very relevant, for example. So anyway, we go with start 10 as our default kind of mid-depth. It tends to be our default, like I said. Okay, let's keep moving here. Let's go to this one. This is a very interesting format here. We got 5 hammers from Yard Dog. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. This is an 8-team super flex. And Shane, we're starting with you. 8-team super flex. It is start 13. Start 2 tight ends and 3 running backs. The team is Mahomes, Hurts. You have Monte, Najee Harris, and Trash at running back. Puka, Smitty, JSN, Pickens, Downs, Dobbs. And then you have McBride, Ferguson at tight end. You have the 101, the 103 through 107, and the 203. Originally wanted to package up some picks for hammers, but everyone is hesitant to trade with me. I'll likely end up drafting all of my picks. How are you navigating this draft? Caleb or Marv? Do I take 2 QBs in the top 7? What are you doing here, Shane? Let's wrap our head around this format. Scott, help us out. An 8-team start 13 is essentially what?
104.
Shane got the math.
So what is it in terms of like
it's
the
a
equivalent?
12. It's a 12 by 8.6 and a half, 8.66. So it's very shallow. Only hammers matter. I assume it's super flex and not 2 QB. So quarterbacks are useless here unless you have the elite ones. Good news, this team does have Mahomes and Hurts. So am I drafting anything but Caleb or Jaden Daniels? No. But if you told me you wanted to take one of those, I would be fine with it, which you're in position to be guaranteed to get one of them. But I just don't know the scarcity of quarterbacks. So continue. Let Shane continue with what I was going to say.
No, I'm not, as the crowd is yelling out. No, I'm not taking Caleb at 101. Excuse me. Yes, I'm taking
I'll agree with
Marv.
that. Yep.
But here's the thing. At 103, I'm guessing someone's going to take Jaden Daniels at 102. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they will take Marv there. And then at 103, I'm just taking Neighbors. Oh, wait. Then you have 104, 5, 6, and 7.
You have everything.
I mean, it's a trade embargo at that point, right? So hopefully there's a 24-hour clock, and I would let everyone know that.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna throw in there. Everyone is hesitant to trade with him. So he's likely going to end up drafting all of the picks. So essentially it's a shallow format. So I mean, I wonder if you
is it start 3 receivers still? Start 3
Let's
restart
see. It's start 13. There's 3 of them are running backs. You have 2 quarterbacks, so that's 5. 2 tight ends is 7. What do you think? Yeah, it might be 3 wide receivers.
Is it worth taking Bowers over Adunze here? 2 tight end?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. You could also argue 3 running backs. I mean, I know it's an 8-teamer, but 3 running backs. You could also argue Brooks higher than. I wouldn't want to take them over Adunze, but I'm not as worried about having to make the pick at 105. Now, the good news is if you have 103 through 107, did I read that right?
Yep, correct.
I'm ripped.
5 picks in a row.
I'm ripping all of the scarcity. I could give a shit here about Xavier Worthy or Brian Thomas. Give me Bowers. Give me Neighbors. I mean, I think you're going to guarantee to get Neighbors, and you're getting Neighbors because you have the 104. Yes. And so you're going what? Daniels? I mean, dude, this team smashes.
So you could go. What doesn't matter the order, but yeah, you could go Neighbors, Daniels, Brock Bowers, John Brooks. And then
Adunze.
Still have another pick.
Adunze.
Still have another pick.
The only guy you don't get is whoever goes at 102, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And the team is an immediate. I have championship aspirations right away.
Yeah. If no one's going to trade with you, fine. Don't trade with me. I'm literally taking 6 first-round draft picks. If 2 of those are elite, I'm going to absolutely smash. If 4 of them are good, I'm still going to smash you. If 3 of them are elite, then you're all dead. So, yeah.
QBs are devalued, except for, do we believe Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels have QB1 upside as rookies? Top 12.
Sure. You're not going to want to hear my answer. Yes.
Okay. But do you know what I want here? I would love a trio of Mahomes, Hurts, and one of those guys. The guys I do not give a shit about are Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. Somebody can have 10 of those. So you can have those, but what's valued is the difference-making QBs, and I have 3 of them, meaning I never don't have one starting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's get the studs or get out. So, yeah, Yard Dog is crushing this team. Or crushing this league.
No, I get if someone starts getting FOMO while you're drafting, like if you're going to give me something, it's going to have to be elite. It's just going to have to be. I mean, you have no reason not to. This has nothing to do with anything. Etienne is a hammer, right? Yeah. Yes, Mason Knight. Yes, he is. He's a pocket hammer. Where have you been? He's a pocket hammer. He's a hammer, right? But he's old. He's got the wood handle, and there's a little crack in it, right? So you got to be careful with it because if you use it too much, the handle's going to break, and then the hammer's no good, but he's still a hammer.
Right. Okay, why don't we hide that comment there? All right, I'm going to go to the back to the banners here. Thank you again for those 5 hammers. Much appreciated. Okay, let's go to a shallow one here for a little switch. As I see the red bubble, Clay is lagging. Nice. Come on, man. This is such shit. Okay.
Somebody is. I just couldn't tell which one of us it was, whether it was me or you two. I don't know.
And I'm sorry for the cursing there. Was it Hollywood Vols? I think we got his family with an F-bomb in the first 3 minutes. He's like, yep, that ruined the entire podcast. So sorry if the 2 S words there did.
When did we hit an F-bomb? Today?
No, it was you. It was a long time ago, but yeah, you let one rip.
Of course
early.
It was.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Apologies. He doesn't listen to us anymore anyway. Now, probably.
Nah, I sure hope he does. Okay, we got a hammer from Kirby. All right, this is a shallow one there. Shane, you're dialed in. 1 QB start 8. We're just gonna assume. We'll see how stacked the team is. We can assume the number of teams. Dak, Burrow at quarterback, Achane, Kamara, Pollard, Javante at running back. JJ, I'm just looking at Scott and laughing here too. JJ, Chase, Lamb, Garrett Wilson, London, Kirk, and then Pitts at tight end. Have an early 25 first and 426 first. Should I trade JJ and Burrow to the second worst team for their next 2 firsts, Mahomes and Hawk, or stay put and win the ship with the squad? Yes, pay to brag a bit. Okay, so to clean that up, it's ultra shallow. Let's assume, are we going to say 10 or 12 team? Start 8. Looks like 10, right? I mean, look at how stacked this team is. I don't know. Very, very shallow. And the question was, should I trade JJ and Burrow to the second worst team for their next 2 firsts, Mahomes and Hawkinson?
No, it's only one QB. Only one QB, right? Now, if it was super flex, I'd be more apt to do this. This feels like a trade you make just because you want to do something adventurous. You know what I mean? Like autoerotic asphyxiation. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called, right? You just wanted to try it one time, so you did.
Did you add it in auto? Isn't it just like erotic asphyxiation?
No, it's autoerotic.
I jacked it up too.
I can't say it now either. It's because I'm sick. Otherwise, If we have anyone that's in the BDSM, if you could just give us the proper pronunciation of that, just DM me, and it will be our secret. But anyway, no, I think I'll just hold on to JJ and Burrow here. It's start 8. Yes, those first could be early. They probably will be early, but I don't feel the need to get risky here and move Chase when the biggest piece or the most important piece coming back doesn't matter in this format.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this logically, you have a problem on your hands. You have Dak and Burrow, both probably could be top 5 this year, but I don't know if any of them could be higher than that, but both are probably top 10. You have their number 1 receiver. So every week you're going, do I start Burrow and Chase or Dak and Lamb? And then you're trading away Jefferson to now change your quarterback situation to you still have Dak and Lamb, but now you're getting Mahomes, which means you're never going to start Dak and Lamb together. So you kind of have this weird issue. Like right now, your QB room isn't optimal because you have a decision to make, but it's also nice because you do have the stack both weeks, whoever you play, Dak or Burrow. And I think I don't want to pay Justin Jefferson to upgrade to Patrick Mahomes, and I'm sitting Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb on the bench, or I'm sitting the pair on the bench and I'm only starting Lamb. So it just doesn't make sense to make that deal and give up Jefferson. I mean, come on, the team is absurd already.
It's so absurd. Yeah, I'm not getting cute with it because in that format, you just want Justin Jeffersons of the world. Like you don't care about it. You just want the hammers with the best player in the deal. So, yep, no, don't do it. Don't do it, Kirby. All right, let's keep moving here. Let's go to one from the crowd. It looks like we Sanford says Shane just lost another viewer without swearing. I started this one earlier. This was from Raymond Groal. Probably jacked it up, but thank you for the question. He was first in the room. How do you apply your general strategies, NERB on a 53, QB on a 2 deep, if you're in a league with shallow benches? So a 12-team super flex, start 10 bench. Scott, we'll start with you. Half PPR, full PPR for the tight ends. I'm sorry, 1.5 for the tight ends. Mahomes, T-Law, Bo Nix, Kyron, Kamara, Connor. So 1 of 2. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's go back to the start of it. Here we go. Backups, Nico, D-Hop, Polk, Lockett, and then Ingram, Hawkinson, Conklin at tight end. Should I be shipping out all late round picks as I don't have any spots on the roster for rookie picks? Okay. Scott, help us out here. How do you apply your general strategies in a really shallow bench league like this? Just 10-man bench in a start 10.
Well, Ramon, I appreciate you being in early and submitting the question. You did forget one thing. You mentioned shallow benches, but you didn't say how many roster spots. The reality is, if you just go through basic numbers, and I'm going to throw some numbers out there, there's about 75 quarterbacks right now in Dynasty that I want to roster in any quarterback on a 2 deep. So remember that number. There's probably about just the same number of receivers. So let's call it 75 receivers. And I'm going deep. I'm going like, okay, I can justify rostering Javon Baker. He's not a top 60 receiver, but there's a path to where there could be some sell value, right? Running backs, it's any running back on a 53 that has a conceivable role. So let's say 32 teams, 2 running backs per team on average. Maybe there's a couple more that you would stash. It comes out to about what? 75-ish running backs. So what's 75 times 3, Shane? You got that quick math in your head?
75 times 3?
Yep.
225.
225. All right. And then tight ends, depending on if they matter in your league, it looks like it's 1.5. So probably not. I don't want to carry more than 2 ever. There should only be about 30 rostered in a league. So right there, 225 plus 30. That's about 255 players that are worth rostering, period. So if you're playing in 30-man rosters, that's 360 across the league. And there's only about 255 max that I would want to have, meaning my goal is to have an entire roster full of that 255 and let everybody else roster all the excess shit. Now,
So-
I see in the chat that it's 20-man rosters,
Yeah.
right? So
And-
what's 20 times 12? Shane, math
Shane.
man.
Oh, Jesus. What do we keep doing this to me? So this is 240.
240 is less than 255, which means
It is.
the any quarterback on a 2D.
I can confirm. That is correct.
The any quarterback on a 2 deep, the any RB on a 53. What is happening in a shallow league? Those are spilling onto waivers, right? Meaning like you're looking at waivers going, damn, I'm carrying this running back, but there's that other one that I would pick up and replace them with that's equivalent on waivers. So it just devalues the strategy when you don't have the ability to carry as many of those players as possible. And the rest of the league is going to be more efficient because there are less decisions to make. So I think the strategy works. But if you told me you have 20 roster spots, I don't want to roster 10 quarterbacks. Part of it is I don't need 10 quarterbacks. The other part of it, guess what? There's probably quarterbacks on waivers for the people that don't have any to get for free. So why would I want to carry 10 when there's 10 more available out there? So I think it just changes the math, but it also just devalues those hoarding strategies. And the reason they work is because there isn't more than, say, 250-ish assets that should be rostered. The rest of the assets are a waste.
Good stuff. All right, let's go with another hammer here from, this is, excuse me, I'm going to mute and cough. We've got 5 hammers from FAAB. So this is a 10-team super flex. It says 3 flex dynamic PPR, depending on the length of the catch, 0.25/0 yards up to full PPR for 20 yards. And no tight end premium. Shane's mind is exploding live finally on a Tuesday. 28-man roster, no tight end premium, and it's a start 10. So it's 10-team superflex, start 10. We've got Lamar, JJ McCarthy, Penix, Stafford at quarterback, JJ, Marv, Neighbors, Wilson, Rice at wide receiver, Najee, Connor, Mostert, B-Rob, Jaleel McLaughlin, Sarah McLaughlin, so bad. Pitts and Musgrave at tight ends. Finished the startup a few weeks ago, during which I made a number of trades to acquire high-end wide receivers, including selling my 25 and 26 first and 25 second. Last part here is newer dynasty players in the league looking to compete this year with dusty running backs. Hope to build a multi-year contender. Thoughts on the construction, prioritizing next steps, etc. Okay, so we got 5 hammers from FAAB. Thank you very much. The 3-parter, it's totally cool. What do you think here? Shane is still reading. Scott, do you have a beat on this one?
I was waiting for Shane to read.
I mean, those wide receivers are pretty good. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I like those. That's a good wide receiver room. His running backs, would you consider them dusty? We just talked about Najee. Spoiler alert. Next Dynasty Trades in 5 video to drop is going to be about Najee. Connor, what was the rest of the team? I didn't look at that.
I think that's, excuse me, I think that's it. Oh, no. Mostert, B-Rob. Here, you can read it.
So he went heavy at running back, I assume. I'm assuming those aren't all the running backs, though, right? I'm guessing there's more running backs and there's probably more quarterbacks. Like, I can't really tell the roster construction. I'm going to say hopefully you went heavy at quarterback and running back, especially considering your top wide receivers are elite. There's really no reason to have that many wide receivers after them.
Well, I mean, he's got 4 quarterbacks, lists 5 receivers. If he's rostering with the intent of I don't want roster cloggers, then you're probably not carrying more receivers, like you said. So I would hope that what we're not seeing, I mean, think about it. The question we just got was about the any running back on a 53 strategy, the any quarterback on a 2 deep strategy. It's not going to work as good in a 10-teamer. Like people ask all the time, I'm in a 10-teamer. Okay, I do not care about backup quarterbacks. If anything, I'd rather have a QB room like this because I have 4 starters. One has contingent value in Penix, so I can just kind of hold him. But I don't want to be rostering Joe Flacco and Jake Browning and Davis Mills and those types on this team. It's a 10-teamer. Who cares? So the bench should have, like Shane said, you know, I can do worse than having this running back room if I also have 3 or 4 guys we haven't named that are a step below Jaleel McLaughlin, but I have a Tank Bigsby. I have, you know, this guy. I have, maybe I picked up Carson Steele. Like I have a bunch of other running backs. If I have those, why do I need more of them. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
sure, we would all love to upgrade to Bijan Robinson, but how many times have we asked about what does James Conner count in a trade when you're trying to get a hammer running back? He just
Does
doesn't.
not.
0.
So you immediately like, I'll just roll with as many of these bodies and hope I can get by. And it sounds like with this PPR scoring, like that may determine, you know, kind of your spike weeks at receiver versus what you do at running back. So I don't know. I think the issue with this team is there's probably holes at some of the other spots to where you're not able to take advantage fully of the any running back on a 53, because it does work in a 10-teamer. But I mean, what are we starting at tight end here? If you go to the tight ends.
Yeah,
there's
we've
no
got
premium.
Pitts, Musgrave, and Taysom.
So we're banking on Pitts. We're banking on our QB2 being what? Matt Stafford is our QB2?
It is
Because McCarthy's down,
yes.
Penix isn't playing. I mean,
Lamar
that
and
in a
Stafford,
10-teamer, you're taking on water by starting Matt Stafford. So that's a spot that if you really want to win with a running back room that has these starters and a bunch of bodies, you need to have positional advantage at quarterback and tight end. And maybe we have it with Pitts, but we definitely don't have it in the super flex. So that's where I'd be putting my assets, and then the running back strategy should work.
I'm just looking at these private messages saying that I've got the Philly internet. It lags every 15 seconds and then freezes. I don't think it's going to make a difference if I leave and come back in, but that's what I'm going to do anyway. So I'm going to hide this. You want to pull up one of the starred ones, guys?
Sure,
I'm going to bail.
Just because Scott actually just brought him up. So are we going to blow all our fab on Carson Steele and his fabulous hair?
Are you?
No.
How much would you spend out of 100 in a lineup league where you are embracing the NERB on a 53? You have $100 for the season. What percentage would you spend?
11, so 11%, because it can't be an even number. And I would be crestfallen if I bid 10 and someone else bid 11.
What if they bid 12?
Well, then
you miss Carson Steele by $1, and then you need to trade a third for him when he has a good game, which you will do.
Here's the thing: I could just go all 100 on him, but I'm not going to. So now I'll go 11%. 11% seems. I think I'll get him. Problem is right after the first preseason action he saw, I went ahead and picked him up in a bunch of places. So yeah, his name is Cream Hunt.
Would you pick up some of the less sexy options on the NERB on a 53? Tyler Goodson, does that interest you at all, Shane?
Yes. Is he a running back on a roster?
How about Emmanuel Wilson? Does that interest you?
I love Emmanuel Wilson. You know this. On the ride home today, we were in the Heisman voice chat, and we were talking about, all these running backs that got cut. Evan Hall and I forget who else. It doesn't really matter.
Deontay Foreman, Jar.
Foreman, Jar. Yeah. Cody Schrader, I believe we said, got cut.
I mean, that one doesn't really count, but sure, yes, he did get waived.
He's a human being and his feelings matter, okay?
Samaje Perine, Michael Carter, Deontay Foreman. Those are the three that are, I guess, downturn because they got cut, but also those three could literally... Like you would take those three over Emmanuel Wilson. If one of them signed tomorrow with Green Bay, you would take them over him.
I am good with Emmanuel Wilson. I like Emmanuel Wilson. I got him. That dude showed a little bit. I forget when it was. It was probably a little bit last year, but I got him. Although, look, any running back that's the running back 3 on a roster, you're really hoping that everything breaks right for you.
How about Jeremy McNichols? Does he count as a running back on a 53?
No. Jeremy McNichols is 36 years old. He his son is starting college next year, and I heard he wants to be like LeBron and play in the league with him. So he's got to play 4 more years. None of that is true. I don't know how.
Jarrett Patterson. He is
remember that buzz
my size. But I'm taller than him.
He got? All the buzz he got for that 1 week, right? For that 1 week, he was the back to own. So that didn't work out.
Hi, Clay. We're talking about Jarrett Patterson and
Jeremy
McNichols.
Kenny
Nwangu.
He got cut.
Yeah, he got cut. I was naming someone else, not the correct person.
Yeah, we've been on fire with pronunciations tonight. I can guarantee that when I listen back to it. Yeah, my connection is probably still going to be trash. Just let me know with the
As
red
Clay's
little
face
red
freezes
dotted.
as he's saying his connection is bad.
Well, whatever.
So
People
let me
don't need to look at me anyway. They could just listen to me.
here.
Okay.
Let me hit another question. Log
Can I
wants to
read it
know.
for you?
No, I can read. I've
I
learned
mean, you
these last
just
few
normally
weeks.
read you normally read it like a weird voice. But go ahead. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Any weirder than my normal. Would Log trade? Oh, Log. Would y'all trade Purcell in a second to get a first? Yes. Yeah, I don't even need the rest of that sentence. But he says, if I'm in a complete rebuild, I already have 6 firsts between 25, 26, blah, 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 blah. You know what, though? That's an important part, right? Point is a lot of times people only want to do moves like this, and not specific to this move, but a lot of times people only want to make moves if they're like in a complete rebuild, even when the move makes 1,000% sense. Because they're like, oh, this kind of means, Scott, we're talking about this earlier, moving Josh Jacobs for a 27 first. It might be antithetical. I don't know if I used that right, Scott. That's your word. Antithetical.
That's definitely
to
not the
competing.
correct word.
To
It'd be
competing.
antithetical.
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 It's antithetical to competing, but it's a good process move. So either way, the point is, yes, I'd make this deal, and you should always make this deal, even if you're not in a complete rebuild.
Nice. Well done there, Shane. Okay, let's go to an interesting one here. So this is another very generous 5 hammers from Swedish Mafia. And again, I'll just hide this banner so you can see under me, buymeacoffee.com/tradesen5 if you want to have your question answered on a stream. Did a pop-up one? Am I laggy? Yeah. Did a pop-up one with Jax earlier today, and we do these Tuesday live streams as well. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to be able to focus. I'll just keep looking at you and you're going to be smirking over there. All right, Swedish Mafia, thank you for the 5 hammers. 14 team super flex PPR best ball. It is 1.5 for the tight end start 10. Burrow, Nix, Minshew at quarterback, Gibbs, Zeke, Chubb at running back, Smitty, Higgins, Keenan, Adunze, Reed at wide receiver, and then Ingram and Freiermuth at tight end. Only has the 25 first. Traded Waddle and Rashad White for Smitty and Higgins. He says, feeling stretched at running back and QBs are tough buys. Any moves I should be looking to make? Love the show. First year in Dynasty, and y'all have been my go-to advice. Thank you. No, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so just to clean this up, Scott, it is a 14-team Superflex PPR best ball, small tight end premium start 10, and the trade was traded Waddle and Rashad White for Smitty and Higgins.
I mean, I'm okay with it. I prefer Waddle to those 2 receivers, and I do think in a best ball 14-teamer, Rashad White is a better asset to have there than he would be in a lineup league, only because running backs are tough to come by in best ball leagues, ones that have roles, ones that are going to get a lot of work. So I think it's a square deal. I get it why he did it, because you look at the team and he didn't have a lot of receivers, so he's probably feeling stretched thin at receiver. The beauty about best ball, if you're in a 14-team start 10 best ball league, receivers go deep. You look on your bench and you go, man, I have a Brandon Cooks and a Rashad Bateman. You're like, all right,
That
those
will
can
hit
play
here
in
and
best
there.
ball.
Right.
Like, not lineup leagues, you don't want those. In best ball, you know what doesn't feel good? Having RBs on a 53, but they don't have a weekly role. You're going, man, Will Shipley I like, but Will Shipley in a best ball isn't that fun because he either ends up with a role or he doesn't. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to hold him all year. And what if Will Shipley is just the next Kenneth Gainwell? And that's what he is. And you're going to go for 3 years. I held him. And he never really had the ability to be used in a best ball league. So it's just how you want to roster construct.
This one's tough.
I think it comes down to your market. How easy is it for you to get receivers that are scoring points or running backs that are scoring points? A lot of my best ball leagues, you go to them right now, go try to trade for like a Zeke Elliott. They need a second. You know why? Because he has a role.
Yeah,
and you're like,
rock.
But his role could be gone tomorrow if they sign somebody. But the fact that he has a role makes them harder to get in best ball, especially, which is the opposite of what lineup leagues, we'd go just take on 10 running backs. One of them will have a role, and you just need to be able to find one that you can start, and hopefully you'll get some points. It's totally opposite in best ball.
So let's address this because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other players on the bench who could hit in a best ball, but the 3 quarterbacks listed are probably all of the quarterbacks on the roster. Shane, what are you doing here? It's Joe Burrow, your boy Bo Nix, who's a crap stick, I remember from a previous show, and Minshew. So this, 14-team Superflex, and Swedish Mafia said, QBs are tough buys, as you could imagine. What are you doing here, Shane?
There was no second part to this?
There was a feeling stretched at running back, and QBs are tough buys.
Sorry. Any moves I should be looking to make?
Can you split Joe Burrow, Shane?
Yeah, can you split Joe Burrow?
Can you get Dak and I'll throw one out. Can you get Dak Prescott and Saquon Barkley for Joe Burrow?
I doubt you could get that, but I don't even know if I would need that much in best ball. Like if I could get Dak and what's a running back? Oh wait, we already
Travis Etienne.
Or Pacheco.
Well, Pacheco would be more interesting to me because I think you'd have a better shot at doing something like Dak and Pacheco because people don't particularly like Pacheco. At least they don't think he's as good as Barkley for the most part. So I would do a deal like that. I know that Minshew has a job right now, which is good for best ball, but I would absolutely do everything in my power trying to trade Minshew for another starting quarterback. Like, I would rather have Derek Carr than Minshew. Derek Carr will have a job all year. Minshew is going to lose that job at some point to Aiden O'Connell.
But here's my question, though. What do you add to Minshew to get a quarterback that is not seen as a stopgap half a season starter? I'll give you Will Levis. You give me Jaden Reed and Gardner Minshew. As soon as I ask you for one of your other starters, you're like, man, I really don't want to upgrade for a guy that's risky.
That's why I'd go after a guy that's not sexy. He's not particularly coveted like Derek
Carr. I think
Carr.
You got to add to Minshew to get Carr. And what does this team have to add?
Well, he has no picks apparently. Only his 25 first.
And I'll say in best ball, to do best ball justice, we need to see the whole team.
Yeah.
There's probably
missing pieces. Yeah.
There's probably like a random Marvin Mims sitting down there where like you might be able to get a deal done with that, but he's not listed on here. So right now we're just with what we see. And it's like, you really don't want to add one of those 4 receivers for a temporary QB upgrade that can also be done after this year.
No, definitely not.
That's a tough team. I am not getting rid of my 25 first unless it's just a brutal overpay. That's a challenging one right there. Oh no. Good luck and thank you.
Best ball is Clay's forte for sure as well.
I mean, if it's on MFL, it's not. If it's on Sleeper, I'm getting
on MFL. Clay struggles to find how to get
I'm not
to
on it.
What team is mine?
Oh boy. Yeah, pretty much. Set up your franchise right off the bat. Yeah, no way.
Clay, are you linked to the league?
9.
I'm not sure.
Oh boy. All right. Let's move on to a starred question here. Go to Alex's weekly strategy question. Thank you, sir. It says, do you overpay for stacks? Which ones would you bet on for success this year? I just got back from my bachelor party in Vegas. So let's roll the dice, baby. Well, congrats on the upcoming wedding. Shane, thoughts here?
Run.
Do you
Run. Oh, sorry. About this, not about marriage. I'm sorry.
I thought it was the marriage and wedding advice.
Yeah, start with the marriage. Start with the marriage and wedding advice.
One, invite me to the wedding. I don't even need a +1. Just make sure you point me in the direction of the single women in their 30s that are really, really upset that they're at a wedding by themselves. And I'll handle the rest. But no, in all seriousness, good luck, Alex. I hope that your wedding goes well. I hope it's a beautiful day for both of you. And remember, it's her day. So do whatever you can to make it go well. Do I overpay for stacks? Absolutely not. I mean, I do overpay, but if I'm overpaying, it's because I want an elite player anyway. You know, so if I happen to have Joe Burrow and I can get Jamar Chase, well, I'm just going to overpay for Jamar Chase anyway. But that wouldn't change. The equation wouldn't change in my mind if I had Lamar Jackson. I know stacks are a good way to differentiate yourself from some teams, but that's probably not something that I want to overpay for.
Scott, thoughts on stacks?
Is this all we know? There's no specific.
This is all we know.
Starters.
This is all we know. So you can just come up with a kind of a blanket response here based on some.
Okay, so format. I'm going to give Shane a question. Shane, if you have Justin Herbert and it's a start 11, would you overpay for Josh Palmer relative to Curtis Samuel?
So an extra third.
And the point is, would you give up a little extra to prioritize your last starter being Josh Palmer instead of a random player that doesn't stack, right?
Yes,
that is where stacking matters. You substitute CeeDee Lamb for Jamar Chase, cool. You know, like if Lamb is the guy you can get and it's not Chase, you're not going to go, okay, I'm not going to overpay for that if you're trying to get a hammer. But I think where you overpay is in the spots where you can actually outproduce the asset you're getting. Josh Palmer is a nondescript wide receiver 4 or 5 that has no dynasty value. But he has a spot, but it's probably a spot on a team where you already have Herbert. So like that's where you'd go, okay, I would overpay to get my last starter because it should be cheap enough to where the bang for your buck when Josh Palmer has a big week correlated with your quarterback, that's where you actually get some upside from a place where you don't expect upside. You expect upside in your wide receiver 1 spot, regardless of who your quarterback is.
I'm just surprised. Talk this through with me. So you said it was going to a start 11. You were going to be willing to tack on a third to move. What was it? You were going to be Josh Palmer instead of whom?
Curtis.
Pick an equivalent to Josh.
Part was what kind of confused me because I was like, if anything, like that's a deep-ish, at least for what our audience hears. Would you want to be tacking on an extra piece for, something that wouldn't necessarily make a difference?
Forget about the start 11, start 10, start 9, start 15, start 50. At the bottom end of your starting lineup, you would be willing to slightly overpay. Now, the farther down you go, the cheaper the overpay is, right? So, like, I want to differentiate my last flex spot as cheap as possible. And if I can't get, would I rather have Jalen Waddle over Josh Palmer? Yes. But if I have Brandon Cooks in my last spot and I can get Josh Palmer instead, it's worth slightly overpaying relative. What's the difference between Cooks and Palmer? A third? You know what I mean? Like that's where you would say, okay, I'll overpay for a specific player because it's magnifying the bet I've already made with Herbert, who I'm starting regardless. That is where I want to pay for stacks. I'm not paying for I have Jalen Hurts, so I'm going to go give 150% of the price for Devontae Smith when I know he's a wide receiver 2. Like that's where I'm not overpaying because it just doesn't matter much in that range.
So we got, it looks like 7 hammers from Big Rick 084. Thank you very much. Super generous there. And this is quite the format. Quite the format here. We're going to start with you, Shane. So it is a 14-team super flex. Start 2 tight end, and it's 2.0 for the tight ends. Start 12. T-Law, Goff, May at quarterback. You have Puka, Smitty, Kirk, Dio John, Javon Baker at wide receiver, Hawkinson, Goddard at tight end. I do not see any running backs. You have 225 firsts, seconds, all futures plus an extra 26 second. It says, love the content in the Discord. I've gotten so much for the advice that I figured I should show some love here. Just looking for some strategy advice. Joined via dispersal. So planned on punting and made some good moves thus far. Okay, and then what to do with the remaining pieces in such a deep format? He says it's a bit out of his comfort zone. Yeah, it would be for me as well. Sent London for Pittman in a 25 first. Let's go back to these trades later, Shane. Let's digest this format here. 14-team Superflex start 12, 2 of which are tight ends in a 2.0.
So, I mean, he's punting, right? Is what he said.
Yes.
Sorry, just reading
Yep.
through it. I do like that. I love the trade. You got a Pittman and a 25 first for London, and then traded
Yep.
Pittman, Sonat, and Flacco. So some stuff outside of Pittman for May, and then other stuff and a 26 second. So that's a really good deal. Can you make more deals like that? Like those two? I mean, excuse me. That's probably my first thought. Go back to his team.
Sure.
The rest of it is I'm going to tell you to sell guys that probably don't have a ton of value to sell. So what's the point? You know, like, sure, would I like to not have Christian Kirk, Dio John, Goddard, and Goff and get first for them? You're probably not going to. Can you sell Smitty for like a 26 first though? Because I don't think he's young, but I don't think he's a fundamental building block.
Look, there's so few assets listed here. This is a start 12. A 14 team start 12, and I'm not counting anywhere near 12 that you can start.
I mean, that London deal, he should be able to get the equivalent for Puka too. I love Puka. But in a 14 by 12, considering that you only have 225 first or 125 first, 225 first, and you don't have a lot of draft capital to build, you probably do need to split another player. I bet you could move Goff it's 14 by 12. I bet you could move Goff for a first, whether it's 25 or 26 is the question. It's probably most likely a 26.
Every deal you make here has to be 2-for-1s. You have to try to split assets. You're selling anything that has kind of value that has flatlined. So I'm not doing 1-for-1s where I'm selling like Smith for a first. What's the point? But I am splitting Goff. If I can I get JJ McCarthy and a first for Goff, and what do I got to throw in? Something else. Throw in Javon Baker, something like that. So if I can do a deal like that, I tell
you what, you might not even have to, because there's leagues I'm in where I have JJ McCarthy, and if you send me Goff straight up,
I'm going after Penix and McCarthy and trying to get a first tacked on to Goff first. I would even go to T-Law if I could get an extra piece. That's fine. I probably want to keep. People don't like T-Law, but T-Law is he is a building block in a 14-team start 12. I can roll with him for the next 5 years, even if he doesn't have QB1 upside. I'm fine kind of rolling with him. You have May. So if you just go with T-Law and May going forward with a bunch of picks, but you just don't want to just sell for picks, right? Like, this is not the format where I go, I'm selling 1-for-1s. Now, can I sell Smitty for a first and something else that I could then turn around and split for a second and a third, or a second in a player? I mean, that's the kind of deal I'm trying to do. Goddard also has to go. I guarantee there's a market for him in a 2.0 start 14 teamer. I bet you there's 10 teams that have shit for tight ends. So that's another one that can you get, I don't know, can you get Jatavian Sanders and 2 seconds or something like some bet where you're taking the risk, but you're looking at it. Even if I whiff on the player that I'm getting, I still got the picks for the player. Like, that's the kind of deal I'm trying to do. I'm going into next year with T-Law, May. I'll hold on to the Kirks and Dio Johns if I'm getting offered nothing for them. And then Hawkinson is perfect for your team. If I have 7 players, but I also have 14 picks over the next 2 years that are first and seconds, this team's ready to move. Then the market changes in a 14-team start 12. Guess what? Because it's so deep, there's going to be some teams that are falling out of it, and they're looking to sell the next version of DeAndre Hopkins, or, and give it a year or two, then you can capitalize going the other way. That's how you build your team back up. You do not have to just draft your entire team for the next 2 years.
Is it just me, or was it such a gift? Like, these 2 trades were awesome. Sent London for Pittman at 25 first, and then turning Pittman into Drake May. That seems like such a gift and a bailout in a 14-team super flex, right?
Well, but here's the thing. If
12.
Ben Sinnott is good,
oh yeah, Drew, the 2.0.
That person crushed that deal, because they end up with another Goddard.
And glazes over that on purpose.
I'm just saying, if he's good, if he's Dallas Goddard, you're going, okay, I got 2 starters I get it. Drake May has the pedigree now, but If Drake May has a Bryce Young rookie year, you're going, damn, I'm glad I got 2 starters for him. And one of them is a rookie tight end that was good as a rookie in a 2 PPR start 2. I see why the person did that deal. They had to have had an excess at quarterback, though. Like they have Kyler and Lamar, and they're like, I took Drake May just because, and, I need some other pieces. So,
yeah. Well, hopefully we gave you a good answer there, Big Rick 084. Thank you very much for the 7 hammers.
Let me just say one more thing about that format.
Go for it.
In 2 years' time, the person that has the most assets in that format will win.
Mm-hmm.
The person that has 7 firsts and 5 seconds and a decent team and the ability to be flexible and split and buy old players when all the teams that went for it start to bottom out, that is when you really pounce because you have control of the board. It's a tough league. Is a lot of starters deep.
That is super deep for people who have played anything near that deep. I mean, good Lord, it is a whole different game. I wanted to throw this up here real quick. So Big Diaz Energy, a friend of ours, friend of the show, one of the OGs, wanted to put up their condolences for the loss of his mother a few days ago. So apparently she was battling a tumor for 4 months and just passed a couple days ago. And he wanted to say, I love you, mama, sincero. Is how I'm gonna mess up that Spanish pronunciation there. But shout out to Big Diaz Energy. Take care. Fantasy community is with you, man. All right.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though. We were kind of joking to a certain extent. He was like, fantasy has held me together, and like as we're having these back and forth conversations about his mom and my dad, he lost his dad too. We're sending trade offers back and forth. It's just kind of funny, Yeah. Okay, so let's go to another one here. I already read that one. Get rid of it. But we're gonna move to Ominous Manatee. Thank you for the it's such an amazing username. Scott, we're starting with you here. So thank you for the 3 hammers from Ominous Manatee. This is a 14-team super flex, half PPR, full PPR for the tight ends, 4 point per passing touchdown, start 9. Anthony Richardson, Kyler, Minshew at quarterback. You've got Brooks, Chase Brown, Moss, Ford at running back. Marv, Neighbors, Dunze, Worthy, Addison. And then at tight end, you have Laporta. All future first plus an extra top 5 first in both 25 and 26. Coming out of a 2-year rebuild, you guys convinced me to leave the draft with Marv and Neighbors. Feels like a house money year. I may sneak into the playoffs. When do I flip the switch? Wait another year, or is it worth shopping the picks to upgrade the RB room and try to win now? Love the show. You guys are the best. Thank you, Ominous Manatee. Scott, what are you doing here? It's a 14-team super flex, start 9, half PPR, full PPR for the tight ends.
Yeah, it's a weird team because clearly we had a lot of 2024 picks because half of our roster is 2024 rookies. Now, good news is we got most of the good ones. Problem is, I don't think you're flipping this into a contender when your top 4 receivers are rookies. That's just probably not going to play. But it's a good form of a team in terms of like you have the shell built and you have your future picks, especially with the extra first in both 25 and 26. You have effectively, if your own first is good because your team also isn't good, then you have some capital to move on getting this team to a place where it can probably win in 2025. I think the weird part is here I could live with this running back room if I had the other pieces that were if that Marv, Neighbors, and Adunze was Chase, Amon-Ra, Tyreek Hill, I would look at this team and go, I can win with Kyler, Richardson, Laporta, those receivers, and I could give a shit who my running backs are. I can win with Jerome Ford, Zach Moss, you know what I mean? But here it's like the running backs are crusty enough, but could get by, just not probably going to win when my entire receiver core is rookies. So it's a tough one because you can't probably sell those running backs. You wish you could can you freeze these running backs in like a cryo chamber and pull them out next year when your receivers are better and just because the running backs can be gone.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Is a running back is what's the conundrum, and I guess the tie goes to trading them away if you don't know, right?
I think the problem is you can't predict who next year's Chase Brown, Zach Moss, and Jerome Ford is. You can do deals where you trade, like I saw a Chase Brown for a second and a random like Will Shipley, like that kind of deal. The problem is Will Shipley is not guaranteed to be Chase Brown. Like next year, he could just be Zach Evans, where you're like, he's just getting cut. So I think if you can do deals like that, Shane, I'm just picking on Will Shipley because he's a 5th round running back. I'm not speaking to him specifically. But if you could turn those 3 running backs into wise bets on other assets, you could build a running back room back like this next year if you had seconds and thirds to trade on top of the first that you had. So could you get a second and a third for Jerome Ford and Chase Brown each? Maybe.
I don't know.
I've heard people victory lapping Jerome Ford today. He's going to get 47 carries in the first couple weeks, Shane. What do you think about that?
You know, it's people should remember they didn't let him touch the football near the red zone last year. So guess what? How people are going to feel when Pierre Strong is out there vulturing touchdowns from him. That's hilarious. But anyway, good.
So Fantasy Plumber says, I would try to sell the Bengals running back room together. If someone was trying to sell you the Bengals running back room, Shane, would you pay any more for both of them than you would for one of them individually?
I will give you an additional 4th round pick, sir.
Right. It's almost like a detractor for me.
Because
because then you're just like, I'm just taking. Yeah, I've got the backfield on lockdown, but it just shows the fragility of the running back position.
Wouldn't you rather
psychological for me?
Right. Yeah, I just want to take a bet on one of them.
Because wouldn't you say when you buy both, you know one of the assets you're buying is probably going to be a loser? Yeah, so it's like you're not. Failure. Yeah, I would sell them separately, but I would also be willing to take whatever you can get. Can I spam for a 26 second and a 25 third if that's what it takes to get it done? But you got to send those out. Nobody is going to come to you with that offer. And I would be willing almost to bet against. Which running back are you betting against on the Bengals, Shane?
Zach Moss.
So you would probably want to sell the one you think you can get value for and hold the other one. And if the other one hits, you just sell the other one. Like you make your bet, but don't try to sell them both at the same time because you're probably just not going to get the value for it.
Yeah, good stuff there. Okay, let me delete some of these to get caught up, but let me put a one from the crowd up here. We are 57 minutes in, 918 eyeballs watching. Thanks, as always. Hit that like if you'd be so kind. Easiest way to help out this small but mighty channel. Okay, let's move to, what is this? Raymond just puts in here, and this was starred. Damn, Kyron going to be returning punts this year. Guess Corum is the RB1. Any thoughts here? Because it was starred while I do some cleanup.
It is true. Sean McVay did name Kyron Williams the punt returner for the Rams. So.
I have no idea what to do with that. Literally none. And I've been hating on Kyron for the last 4 months since Blake Corum got there, 5 months, and I have no idea what to do with that news. Absolutely none. I think Sean McVay is just trolling us. I have a feeling that game 1, it's going to be Jordan Whittington back there, but who knows?
Do you have any thoughts there, Scott, about him returning the punts?
It's funny because a lot of our leagues are kick return, punt return, yardage leagues. So the people in those leagues are victory lapping it. Man, he could score even more points. If you don't have one of those, you're scared to death that your best running back is on special teams. So the reactions are far and wide from depending on. I mean, how many have you seen the Scott Fishbowl victory laps on Twitter, Shane? Man, You got Kyron and Scott Fishbowl. You are smashing because he's just going to score 18 more points per game because of the punt return yards. And then other people don't want him at all because now he's going to get less work in the running backs.
Until that Liz Frank break, Jones fracture, whatever one he had, rears its ugly head on a 12-yard punt return when the Rams are up by 13 in the fourth quarter with 3.5 minutes to go, and Kyron Williams shatters his foot and has to have it amputated on the field so he doesn't die because he was returning punts just because Sean McVay wanted to. Let's see how you feel then. I'd probably feel really bad if that happened. I got to be honest with you. So
what would you sell Kyron Williams for today, Shane, if you cannot get a first? What would be a creative offer you could send out to people that you would be willing to do?
Can I get Calvin Ridley and excuse me, Tony Pollard?
No.
No,
You can barely get Tony Pollard.
I can barely get Tony Pollard for Kyron Williams.
The Tony Pollard hive, especially since because he looks, I don't know, fast, is it is high. People like. I'm going to throw this to the chat. Who in here would give Calvin Ridley on top of Tony Pollard for Kyron Williams? Does anybody care who they have between Tony Pollard and Kyron Williams? Yes or no? Truthfully.
Truthfully, no. For me, I mean, I'm not the crowd, but I'll go ahead and talk.
How about this?
Dead air
I'm going to
away.
go
What's up?
Brooks plus a first for Kyron. You're not getting Brooks in a first for Kyron. Absolutely,
man.
Not. You couldn't get Brooks for Kyron.
We got people in the chat that would give up Ridley and Pollard for Kyron Williams. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's. I'm telling you, I don't think that's a bad offer. People still like Kyron. I need to put this out there. I like Kyron too. I'm just incredibly concerned about his durability and the fact that Blake Corum is the type of running back that could ether his job.
So we've got a hammer from Dr. Dirk here.
Dirk. Sorry.
Easy.
That's unfortunate.
Earmuffs. Get really earmuffs live. Dr. Dirk. Hey guys, new listener, and I'm loving how you guys are getting me to change how I think about / play Dynasty. That's awesome. I've gone back through and listened to the roster construction episodes, but was left wondering how to approach my taxi spots. Do general roster construction principles still apply, i.e. any RB / QB? And if not, how do you identify the types of players you put there? Thanks. It's a good question. Thank you, Dr. Dirk. Scott, what do you think here, man? Taxi spots.
Well, we always ask on roster reviews, like, how is the taxi treated? Can you pull players up and down without regard to you have to keep them there if you pull them up? Is it first, second, third year players? Is it just rookies? Like, those matter. If it's most people have like it's first and second year players, and then once they're down, they can't come back up, or they can't go up and then go back down. But for me, like, I just treat taxi spots as they're just extra roster spots. I'm probably stashing backup quarterbacks and or running backs. And if they ever get any opportunity, I treat them just like I would if they're on my active roster. So it's just an extension. There's just limitations to the extensions of what that roster spot is. You know, maybe you can't put third year players there. So maybe it's a little tougher. So you want to make sure you maybe have an extra rookie or two to make sure you put them on the taxi. But I don't think it matters. What you don't do with taxi spots is think that because the player is on your taxi that they're automatically going to be better. Like, I'm grooming them down there.
Yeah. Like something's actually happening.
Like, I'm putting Jalen McMillan down there, and all of a sudden he's going to be a startable receiver quicker because he's on my taxi, when he's either just good or not. You know what I mean? And he's probably good. But I think sometimes people think taxi is like, ooh, I have this player down here, and they're being developed. It's really just an extension of your roster.
Mm-hmm. Shane, we have a hammer from wide receiver Hammer King. You, of course, have to get this question. So this is a 10-team Superflex PPR, 5-point per passing touchdown, start 9. You have Kyler, Caleb, Dak, and Goff at quarterback. Brees, Ramondre, Singletary, Brooks, Zeke. At running back, JJ Lamb, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Marv, Neighbors. Come on. And then you have Laporta at tight end, 225 first, and all future picks. Top 2 team by far. Continue to hoard all the wide receivers from everyone. One last year, and I think I can win for a few years with this team. But want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Thanks for the stuff you guys do. Favorite podcast to listen to each week. Hey, appreciate that, man. Thank you for the hammer. Shane, this is a 10-team Superflex start 9. Obviously a stacked team. Let's address his question first. Continue to hoard all the wide receivers from everyone?
I mean, normally I'd say no, because then you usually do that at the expense of the rest of your roster. But, I mean, you have Kyler, Caleb, and Dak and Goff. Not to read the team again. I mean, technically, I guess, sure, you're running back 3. I'm counting Brooks as your running back 2. I thought your running back 3 is Ramondre Stevenson. Like, I'd absolutely murder for that in most of my leagues.
It is a start 9-10 team, but yeah, go ahead.
continue to hoard them unless there's a situation where, like this year, I probably would have preferred. Well, he's already got Caleb, so yes, just keep taking wide receivers at this point. What you could start looking to do is maybe trading them for future picks if you wanted to, just so you can extend your dynasty.
Nice. All right, let me move off of this one here. Thank you for that hammer, wide receiver hammer king. Appreciate that. And I will put this up here real quick. So the great Drigsby, this is a buddy of mine. He says Puka / Stafford for the win. Appreciate you at Deep Pandemic Clay. So I gave him advice as to which players he should keep in a keeper for a certain amount of money. And basically I said, if you go this route, you're going to have to go gross with the Puka Stafford stack to make it work. But anyway, on a different stream, I will pull that up and see how awful my advice was to get you guys to chime in on it. All right, thank you for the hammer. Let me go to that Dan guy. Okay, so Scott, starting with you. Thank you for the 3 hammers in my rest of season dynasty. No, I'm sorry. In my, what is this?
RSO. So it's an actual format. I'm guessing it's RSO contract.
Yeah, it's
Real
fun.
Sports Online.
It's a fun platform.
Okay.
Keep reading, but I have already a rebuttal to the question unless there's a second part that explains a lot more. Keep going.
Objection.
Objection. Okay. It is in my RSO dynasty, it's a 10-team Superflex start 10, Lamar, Fields, Bryce Young, T-Lock quarterback, Mixon, Warren, Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, Mitchell at running back, Collins, Cup, Ayuk, Kirk, Reed, Addison, Worthy, then has Goddard at tight end, all future picks. Says happy with the team, but not sure if it's strong enough to contend in this format. Your thoughts? Contender, pretender? Any moves? What do you think here, Scott? Object.
I mean, I can only evaluate the team as it stands. I mean, when Justin Fields you're listing as your second quarterback, it's weird how he listed the QBs because he put Fields after or Young ahead of T-Law and then Fields ahead of Young and T-Law. Odd, but I mean, you have Lamar, T-Law. Running backs are, I mean, I wouldn't put Elijah Mitchell on there. He's officially gone, so that's probably one you could take off. But the running backs I can get by with. Mixon, Warren, Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, okay. Receivers, okay. There's no hammers, but you could probably have enough starters to get by. And then Goddard. Thing with RSO, it's a contract league. So player values are very dependent on their contracts. It's almost like I don't know how valuable Lamar or T-Law are in a 10-teamer if you are paying a certain price for them. You know, like that's the part he didn't list is the team itself probably not good enough to be a contender in a 10-teamer. But the roster itself, I don't know how valuable it is because RSO, for people that don't know, it's a contract league. So like contract years and salaries.
Mm-hmm.
So a $1 million a year Brian Robinson for 3 more years is worth more than a $50 million a year.
Paying a stupid amount for
Jonathan Taylor. Exactly. It comes down to your salary cap, and if your roster is cheap, you should be able to think about RSO. Anybody that's played in RSO, you should be able to take on good players that have a ton of salary cap that need to be taken on as well. Just like the real NFL, you can get Jalen Ramsey in a trade because his contract versus his actual impact. Yes. So it's just incomplete, but I don't think the team is good enough to win. I don't know if Shannon has any thoughts, but the team isn't good enough to win, I don't think.
Yeah, contender or pretender?
I would say it is a pretender. A lot of, I don't want to say middle of the road assets, but I mean, if this was cut from 4 years ago, is that when he was a monster? 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. I'd feel.
And Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones would be a monster.
Joe Mixon gets better with age, so I don't know how to evaluate that one. But yeah, I mean, Jones and Cup 2 years ago would put this team up there.
Yeah, but no, I don't think it's a contender right now. Yes, I would like a stronger quarterback room. Obviously, Lamar. Excuse me. Obviously, Lamar is elite, but I would like another elite quarterback as opposed to T-Law and Bryce Young. If Fields gets in there, obviously you'll get some spike weeks, but you're hoping that Russell Wilson fails for that to happen. So I would say at this point, it's not a contender. Like a lot of those assets like Reed, Addison, Kirk, Worthy, these are all guys that these are dudes that I want to consolidate. Ayuk, I want to move for a future first and a pick. That's Nico Collins, right? So I guess Nico Collins. Yeah, so that's not bad.
Yep.
But no, I don't think it's a contender right now.
Yep. Okay. That Dan guy, feel free to plug in a message on Buy Me a Coffee or something if there's anything major we missed, or if you have some short follow-up question. So let's go to this. Everest. Scott, I think you're up with this one. So last week I asked about my struggling team and you gave me some great advice. Shane, well, we'll go to Shane. Shane mentioned that I consider moving Jalen Hurts as part of my rebuild. What should I aim for? Says QBs and picks, just picks, or should I wait until the season starts to see if a contender loses their QB due to injury for a better trade up? Thanks for all the awesome work you guys do. Appreciate it, Everest. Shane, what are your thoughts on that? You mentioned moving Jalen Hurts, but do you generally want to move for a QB and picks, just picks? What do you think?
What was his roster again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we don't have the roster, unfortunately, unless I went back to the other stream. So that makes it kind of challenging. But yeah.
If I was telling you to sell Jalen Hurts,
the team was dog shit.
It must be bad if I was saying sell Jalen Hurts. I mean, sounding like just based off of that, probably multiple picks as opposed to a player and picks. But it depends, again, what player are you getting back? Like, can I get someone to give me back Anthony Richardson in a first, and then can I go flip Anthony Richardson for a first and a second and another pick? You know what I mean? Something like that. Can I get Jaden Daniels in a first with Jalen Hurts? Probably not. So you're probably looking at getting again.
You think you could get Richardson in a first right now with the Richardson panic?
I think you could. Yeah, I think you could. And then when he goes out in week 1 and rushes for 75 yards and 3 touchdowns, no one's going to give a shit that, he missed 86 receivers running across his face and never saw them.
Are you worried that when they blitz Jalen Hurts, he gets a little flustered, like that report that came out yesterday?
Absolutely not.
Did you see? Was that like a legitimate report that they tried to?
It sounds so thin.
Make news.
It's ridiculous.
It was something. I didn't. I saw it on Twitter, but I just ignore all that because I mean I'm local, so no one buys any of that nonsense.
Yep.
How low would you go QB wise in that situation where you are desperate to split Hurts? What would be? Obviously, a first is one of the pieces. But what would be the other piece if the team that is trying to trade with you doesn't have a quarterback in the range you'd be willing to take? Would you even be interested in a deal, or is that a deal breaker?
I considering that this team is awful, right? Everything is on the table. We're getting, we're getting creative here.
We're just putting it all out there.
What's Justin Herbert QB 13 right now?
Yes.
I mean that's another one you could potentially go after because the person with him. The problem is, if you have Justin Herbert right now, are you looking to give your extra asset to get, truthfully, are you sending that deal out?
Me?
And it probably takes more than a first on top of Herbert to get Hurts.
I mean, I traded Justin Herbert and a first and something else for Jalen Hurts in our 14 by 12 team league that we're in together. But it was your first, so it's shit. It's a terrible first. It's like the 112, maybe the 111 at best. Worst, whichever. So yeah, I would, depending on what first it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Depends.
All right, let's go to these 2 hammers from Elliot. Much appreciated. Scott, we'll start with you. It is a 12-team Superflex PPR, 1.75 for the tight ends, start 10. There's also some big play bonuses for rushing and receiving. Caleb, May, Russ at quarterback, CMC, Brain Rob, Singletary at running back, Tyreek, DK, Dell, Rome, Addison, and then has Ferg, also known as Freg from earlier. No 25 first. Can this team make a run this year? Just acquired CMC for my first and the reigning champs 25 first. Thoughts on this move, or if I sold too early? Thanks. Love the show. Appreciate it, Elliot. Scott, it is a 12-team Superflex PPR 1.75 for the tight end start 10. Can this team make a run this year was the first question.
Can the team make the playoffs? I mean, you have Tyreek and you have CMC, so the team could make the playoffs. When all I have is Caleb Williams and Drake May, this isn't a team I'm looking to pay 2 first for CMC. If anything, if I'm the CMC manager and I have an equally live chance to make it, if I'm a top 3 roster already, this is the kind of team I want to sell the CMC to for the 2 firsts. I can still probably beat his team, and I'm holding his first. I think he sold the pick too early. Hate to say it, Elliot, but you gave up all your flexibility. And Shane, there's a world this team doesn't make the playoffs, right? And now you are up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. You have Tyreek, Christian McCaffrey, no firsts. What do you do then in the offseason when nobody wants to touch every asset you have outside of Caleb and Rome Odunze? That's the only thing anybody would want, and those are the 2 pieces you have that you do not want to trade.
Yeah, I mean, your quarterback room has a definite case to break bad. I know, I guess the talk is now that Drake May might start. Excuse me, I haven't heard anything announced. But he's still a rookie quarterback on an absolutely god-awful offense. I'm the wide receiver 3. It is not good. And Russ could lose his job and will likely lose his job at some point. So,
I mean, are you trading Drake May on this team for bodies? If you could get another quarterback, and go back to his team real quick, if you could, Clay.
Yeah, it's up here.
Okay, so would you trade Drake May for, could I get, trying to think of a veteran, give me a veteran receiver
Goff.
that kind of fits.
No, that's not.
No, I'm getting Geno Smith and another starter.
No.
You have DK. What quarterback are you downgrading from Drake May to?
Bro,
that somebody would actually trade.
I'm not. That's just losing proposition. I drafted May.
So is trading McCaffrey for 2 firsts, including one that could be a non-playoff.
I don't love it, but 2 firsts at least gives you an out with this team, right? Because you just mentioned it. He has no 25 firsts. Excuse me. He has no 25 firsts. And as much as anyone might like DK, he's not going to get you a lot. Dell's not going to get you a lot. Addison's not going to get you a lot. You don't want to sell Rome. You literally just drafted the dude at probably 105, 106. Excuse me. If I don't think this team can win, or at least I'm in season and this team isn't winning, I'm pushing the parachute on CMC. You don't have to on Tyreek unless someone knocks your socks off. I said knocks your socks off like I'm 90. Because he's a wide receiver and he's going to continue to play at a high elite level for probably 3 to 4 more years, whereas CMC is already on borrowed time. So that's my only thought with it is if I get into the season and it looks like things are going south, I'm just going to push them along.
Sure. Good stuff. Scott, we're going to start with you on this one from Russell Y. Thank you for the 3 hammers. We have a 12-team Superflex PPR start 9. Lamar, Kyler, Blue Jeans at quarterback. That's Will Levis. You have Brooks, Warren, Hubbard, Gus Bus. Running back, A.J. Brown, Nico, Addison, Ridley, Dio John. And then at tight end, McBride. You have all your future picks. Fresh out of the startup. Everyone thinks they can compete. How do I make trades when everyone has that mindset? And what can I do to improve? Okay. So everybody thinks they can compete. How does Russell Y get trades done when everybody's in that mindset? And how does he improve this team fresh out of the startup? Go ahead. 12-team Superflex start 9.
You ever been really excited to go somewhere and you realize that the direction you need to go is that highway over there and the traffic is just completely backed up? The alternative is you go a different direction, or you just go, you know what? I'm going to go a different time, go on back home, and you chill in your living room. So here, Russell probably thinks he can win. because he has guys like Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson. Look at the running back room. That is I waited forever, and I'm glad I got Chuba Hubbard and Gus Edwards, because they can probably give me something for the first half of the season. The problem is he's trying to get better, when I bet you if you look at all the teams in his league, a lot of them probably look like this.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how do I up tier? How do I upgrade? How do I upgrade? Who wants to give me a hammer for 3 of my guys? So I think you go the other way. I think you keep the shell of the team you built, but can I move some of the pieces that probably have some expiring value? Can I move Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson? Can I move Will Levis? Can I move any of the running backs? Try to give yourself a shot to win, because you do have Lamar and Kyler and McBride. Like, you're not going to tank. But I also feel like with Lamar, Kyler, McBride, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, let's just stop at AJ Brown, McBride, Lamar, and Kyler in a start 9. That's what's going to determine if your team wins or not. Those 4 players. The other bodies I put in the other spots are going to be minute compared to those 4. So trade everything that's not those 4 and see if you can still win, but give yourself a shot to be even better next year. Hey, okay, I traded Ridley I gave Ridley and, I don't know, what can you do? Ridley and Jalen Warren for a first. Could you pull something like that off? Maybe. But if you could, you're not losing much if you do that. So that would be my strategy. You're zigging, but you're not blowing your team up to the point where next year you don't have any quarterbacks. You don't have a tight end. I have all the picks, but I have to start over. You don't need to start over. Yep. That'd be my advice. You're zigging, but you're not fully punting. But do not try to chase the 11 other teams that probably have identical rosters. And that happens a lot out of a startup.
Yeah, Shane, what are your thoughts here? Because when I also hear everyone has that mindset that, they think they're going to win. I don't know. Russell Wise has been around for a while, but that always just seems like kind of a casual league kind of mindset. I don't know. So I'm just wondering, trade-wise, if this is a league where you can do sneaky stuff with trading, player in a third for player in a second, like little marginal moves like that, as we hit 1,000 eyeballs on the dot. That's cool.
Yeah. If everyone thinks they're going to compete, I'm going, all right, well, since you're going to compete, let me get your first for Addison. Let me get your first for Ridley and Dio John. Well, let me get your future first, because you're good. You're clearly going to make the playoffs. You're probably going to win. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I'm just hoping
you're giving me the 112. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can compete in 2028, dude. I mean, that's really what I'm looking to do. So I'll give you these players so you can go out and win this year. But don't be stupid about it. Don't go to the teams that are actually diesel already and be like, here's some additional assets. Give me your first when it is likely to be the 112. But find the marks in your league that, they think they're going to compete, but they're clearly not going to.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to to one more here from Royce DeRuler. Let me put this one up. And again, I'll just leave it on this screen for a sec. buymeacoffee.com/tradesin5 if you want to have your question answered on a stream. And I will just tell you now, yours will be answered on the next stream if you get one in, rather quickly. Let's go to Royce DeRuler. Thank you very much for your 3 hammers. So this is a 12-team Superflex PPR 1.5 for the tight end start 10. And Scott, we'll start with you. This is Mahomes, Hurts, JJ McCarthy, and then at running back, Achane, Zamir, Charbonnet, Chandler. At wide receiver, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, Christian Watson, Diggs, Downs, Baker, and then Pitts, Njoku, Komet, Kraft at tight end. 225 firsts and seconds, 226 firsts and seconds. Here is a trade. Gave Lamb and Debo, got Moore. Okay, DJ Moore, Hawkinson, a 25 first, 26 first, and a 26 second. Positionless league, 8 flex, 2 super flex. Okay. Trying to exploit that tight ends are undervalued and give myself flexibility to buy a premium asset in the season. Can this team compete? Did it give up too much flexibility? What do you think here? This again is a 12-team super flex, PPR, small premium, start 10. You want to address that trade first, Scott, or how do you want to do it?
Well, in a positionless league, I pretty much would wash out TJ Hawkinson and Debo Samuel. They're probably similar production-wise. I'd rather have Debo right now, but Hawk probably lasts longer. But let's just wash those from the deal.
Yeah, let me just read the trade real quick too here, Scott. So gave Lamb and Debo, got Moore, Hawkinson, a 25 first, 26 first, and 26 second. All right, go ahead.
Well, no. I mean, you ended up getting 2 firsts on top of DJ Moore for CD Lamb, which I'm actually okay with that trade. I know it's giving up CD Lamb, but the team, if you go back to the first part of the team, I mean, the team has Mahomes and Hurts, and it also has Pitts and Njoku. So you are already kind of the shell of the team. I know you don't have to start a tight end, but if you're just looking at flexes, this team's good enough to win. And I like the fact that now you have the multiple firsts in both years to play with, because you don't have to specifically have a running back or specifically have a tight end or a receiver. So I'm just looking at how many starters do we have in here? Moore, Rice, Watson. Hell, I'd honestly want to start as many receivers in that range as I could, because Shane, if I have 8 wide receivers in the top 30, I guarantee like 3 of them are going to have spike weeks every week. We're talking like 20 points or more. You know, if I have DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, Christian Watson, Stephon Diggs, like those guys are, you know, they're not that they're going to match CeeDee Lamb, but there's going to be weeks where if I have enough of them, I'm going to probably match a top 5 receiver pretty much every week with one of those guys. So I like what he's doing. Now it comes down to, I don't need, this is where you struggle in a no position league. Like, do I really want Zamir White, Ty Chandler? There's just no reason to have those, but they're probably worth nothing. So they're worth the flex value to you. So can I use those first to get some more assets when I can have spike weeks? If so, I like the deal. And no position league, there's no scarcity. So getting 3 first has a lot of power, because now you control the board. If somebody wants those first, you can pretty much get whatever you want.
It's funny because we have our no flex league that we did a startup quasi recently. And that's
and you're going to view like Zamir White there as like you're holding on to him with
it's a start 3 running back, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I believe that's all we have. We've got 1,004 people watching, and they've already hit the like, because I know that's the easiest way to help out this channel. Subscribe if you play Dynasty. Thank you everyone for joining. Shane, Scott, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye. I shall. Shane just commented on my 16 team trade. You like that one, Shane?
There's 2 players that are not in the league anymore in that trade. Generic
Prince. Here was my last comment. We had the deal agreed to, and I said, you have to take Generic Prince and Chris Rodriguez, so I don't have to cut them. It saved me 8 seconds out of my life to not have them anymore. Big deal, man. It's a huge deal. Yep. Done while we were streaming. Shout out to Drew C, who sent me the offer, and I could not multitask when I get an offer. I played Shane tonight, where I'm working the deal while answering questions. I like it. I'm impressed. You've learned well. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Hit that like on your way out, and we will see you next time in the stream. Cheers.